Okay, I'm gonna give another update. The main thing I did since last time was the minimap that you see in the bottom left there. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and explain how it works, like from code perspective, and then go over a few other things that I did. But I guess it's pretty self-explanatory, like what a minimap is. But yeah, and then I also added some more like test enemies, which I guess I should have done earlier. But yeah, now you can kind of actually play the game. There's not like just a bunch of random enemies standing still like this. But yeah, there's the mini-map, and then the other noticeable thing, apart from the levels, is I added a system where I can change the color of enemies. So now, like, if I switch modes, you can see it a bit better. But all these enemies are the same thing. It's just they're different colors. So I figure, I think it's easier to tell what's going on if you can color code the enemies. So like here you see like the ones going left and right are green, the ones going up and down are blue, and then the ones standing still are teal or like aqua. So I think it just kind of helps like see what's going on. In the original like World's Hardest Game and World's Hardest Game 1, 2, 3, and 4, all the enemies for the whole level were all the same color, and then they would switch color between levels. But I think this system's a lot better because it kind of helps you see what's going on. But yeah, I'm still trying to like, you know, convince myself that this gameplay is going to work, because the depth makes it harder to kind of, like when you're in simple mode, it's really easy to see what's going on, and obviously this works as a game because the World's Hardest Game's already been successful and stuff. But whoops. But when you add the depth, oops, I keep pressing the wrong hotkey. When you add the depth, it's not really clear yet if it's gonna work, but I think it will. The main issue is I have to make the boundary boxes smaller, because otherwise, if I make the boundary, if I turn on the boundaries, you could see that little circle there. That's the actual boundary that causes a collision. If I make the boundaries bigger, they get too far away from the player, and then you start dying when you're not even touching the enemy. And then if I make the player bigger to compensate for the bigger boundary, then it covers too much of the screen. Even now, the player's taking up quite a bit of space, but I can show you, I guess. But anyway, yeah, I tinkered around with the boundary boxes, and I also centered it better. Like before, it wasn't really centered this way. So like now, when you're in the center of a tile, your boundary and your shadow are both in the center, whereas before it wasn't really like that. But yeah, anyway, I'll just kind of, yeah, I should have done this earlier, but I went ahead and added some like actual playable levels. So if you want to play the game, you go ahead and try it. You just got to go to fairmaidengames.com/WHG/play, and that's how you can play it. And you should press full screen too. But yeah, so I guess that's pretty much all there is to show. I can basically go through the code now. But the main thing I want to emphasize is, if you look at like these enemies, I can like move between them, and that's not the way it was in the original World's Hardest Game. In the original World's Hardest Game, each circle took out, and each, like the player and each enemy took up almost a full tile, whereas now it takes up a very small percentage of the tile. So now the main difference is you can move, if I have one enemy on one tile and one enemy on another, I can move between them like this. So I still have to figure out how I'm going to make that work. And one of the ideas was to double up the enemies here. So see, now instead of having one enemy on this tile, you have two. Except when you double them, it becomes kind of hard to see. Like here it's easy to see, but in real mode it's kind of hard to see what's going on. So the different colors help but it doesn't really work as well as like the original World's Hardest game where the enemies were bigger and they weren't doubled up. But I think it's good enough that it'll work. And then the other idea I had was if I kind of design the levels more with staggered enemies. So now I can't move between them and they also look better because they're staggered. So I think by staggering the enemies and maybe by changing the colors, I can make it work. But I can't make it work by having a bigger boundary box and bigger player. I already tried that and it doesn't work. I'll show you what that would look like. I'll show you right now, actually. This is what this would look like. If I tried to make... if I made the player bigger... So right now... I'll just go ahead and explain another thing real quick so there's less confusion. There's two different boundary boxes. There's the main and the actor. Wait. So the main boundary box is that square. That's for walls. I use it for walls and for coins too because it doesn't really matter for coins and it's a little bit more efficient. But yeah, the main boundary is for walls. The main boundary is half a tile. So a tile is 50 pixels. The main boundary is half a tile. But the actor boundary, which is the boundary that you do collisions with, this boundary is only 13 pixels. So it's a little bit over a quarter of a tile. Because a tile is 50. Quarter would be 12.5. So when you have 13... I just barely can't move between these enemies. So if I were to make it bigger, say 25, right? So now you see there's quite a big circle. Now I could also make the shadow bigger, which would be like somewhere around here. Shadow width 32. Okay, I'll say... okay, now I'm a bit confused actually. Okay, yeah, 32. See, the problem is I don't want to draw a circle shadow. I want to draw an oval. And right now, the height of the boundary is 25. But the oval, the height is half the width. So this is 25. That means the height is 12.5. Yeah. Wait, sorry. Right now, the height of the boundary is 25, and the height of the shadow is 32. So it's like 16, I guess. But yeah, when the height is 25 and then the height of shadow is 16, what that means is I can get like kind of close to an enemy, and I didn't even touch the shadow, and it's dying right now. So I would need a bigger shadow. So let's say 50 then. Okay, so now the shadow matches the height of the boundary, but it's way too big for the player. And even then, like, I don't want that much. I want a little bit of leniency in the shadow so that it's more like this, where I want to be able to like clip into it. Well, let me just go like this. I want to be able to clip into the enemy a bit without dying. So when you just immediately die the moment you touch, it's too strict. It doesn't really work. So anyway, if I have a shadow this big and a boundary this big, I would need to have a bigger like character. So then you'd have to go like this. Texture scale real, I'll say like 2.5. Okay, so now I have a bigger character and a bigger shadow and a bigger boundary. So, but now that they're taking up too much space, like you can't see what's going on. So, in terms of fixing that problem where you move between the enemies, I can't fix it by doubling the enemy. Or sorry, I can't fix it by making everything bigger. I have to fix it by doubling up the enemies so that you have a tile here with two of them on the tile. And I'll also show you like up here, up on the top right. And if you look over here on the map in the bottom left, you can see I'm like revealing new areas of the map here. But yeah, if you think about the original World's Hardest game, I would do like, I'm kind of zoomed in here, but I would do patterns like this, where there's one enemy on each tile, And that only works kind of well if you can't move between them. So because I made them bigger now, I can't really move between them. Except when you have like the player in real mode here taller than the actual boundary, you know, I already explained it. Basically, it doesn't really work that well. So the lesson I learned was that these sizes are pretty optimal. And what I have to do is either allow you to move between the enemies or double them up. So down here and right here, you see they're doubled up, and therefore I can't move between them. And here they're not doubled up. So like if I were to stand like right here, you see I'm moving, there's like a green guy going on either side of me. But yeah, I think it'll still work as a game though. Yeah, and then in stick mode, I'm not sure if I think what I want to do is draw shadows in stick mode, but just have them lighter than in real mode. But yeah, stick mode, it's too hard to see the boundaries maybe. But yeah, in real mode, the shadow helps you see where the collisions are going to be, but it's still kind of like iffy if it's going to work. But yeah, I think it'll work, but I'm going to make it work. But it's not as straightforward as simple mode like in the original World's Hardest game, where it clearly worked because you can clearly see the enemy boundary and the player boundary, and then you can make the enemy bigger and there's no issue of it covering too much space. But yeah, anyway, so I basically explained the new color stuff. Oh, and I'll also show you when I define a color. For example, like there, define color. What I'm doing is I have a whole bunch of different themes, and I just have a color number. So color 0, color 1, color 2. These are for enemy colors. So in light mode, they all each have a certain color. Like you can see the color here. So in light mode, enemy 0 is blue, enemy 1 is green, enemy 2 is aqua, etc. And then when I change theme, it doesn't preserve that same color. It goes to now the dark ones. But yeah, I think it's going to work really well because it just helps you tell things apart. And, you know, if all these enemies were all the same color, it's harder to kind of see what's going on. And then especially when they're doubled up like this. But anyway, so yeah, I'll just try to quickly go through the code. This is all stuff I did since last video. I basically just showed it, but I want to show some of the code. But yeah, I'm using, I use almost no libraries except for jQuery and a thing called Pixie.js. Pixie.js is for Canvas, basically for game development. So with Pixie.js, I just added some wrappers for some of the existing functionality. The main new one is the render texture wrapper. Basically, a render texture is a way of increasing performance. It's a way of creating a texture at runtime and then drawing to it at runtime. And you need a render texture in order to do the map with good performance. I'll show you how the map works. But yeah, render texture is just a texture which I can draw to, so that instead of having like for example, see how there's like 1,000 different tiles here? I don't want to have 1,000 different tile sprites just sitting there because it's bad for performance. You have to take a render texture and then draw the tiles to that texture, and then you just have one thing for the whole map, essentially, except it's separated in layers so that I can get the colors working. But yeah, I had to wrap render texture. I guess this isn't that big of a deal. With textures, I have two different types of scale modes. I have main, which is actually called linear, and then simple, which is actually called nearest. Simple scale mode is like the background tiles, where when you scale it, it's always pixel perfect. See how it's like the background isn't like blurry at all? And then nearest scale mode is like the mask you see here. See how it's like blurry around the edge? So yeah, sometimes I want nearest scale mode, and sometimes I want linear scale mode, or what I call main and simple. So like, I went ahead and increased performance across the whole thing, where I have these game shapes. Basically, I create a texture of a one by one pixel. I don't know. I don't really want to explain the whole thing actually, but the short answer is I had to do a bunch of render texture type stuff in order to increase performance, and then I created some generic shapes which I can use in games to conveniently use render textures essentially, instead of doing it the less efficient way. But yeah, that's kind of the boring part. The cool part, which I should have started with, is the map. This is the map, WordSource game map class. It doesn't, the map right now only appears on the sidebar, but actually the map will be in other areas too, like maybe on the level select and on like the pause menu and stuff. So yeah, the map has a bunch of layers, the border, the background. The cool thing is the visibility layer. What the visibility layer is, let me just see where I did that. Yeah. So the visibility layer is basically, let me just think for a second how I want to explain this. First I draw the tiles. So I go through the world, each tile, and I draw them all, and then I create a render texture out of them. So now that gives me one big texture of this whole map. And then in order to reveal the part that you've only seen so far, you take the map and you mask it. And the way masking works is whatever's white you could see, and whatever's not white you can't see, essentially. So what I'm doing is wherever you go, I'm drawing, it's kind of hard to see it there, but just like, see this area right here is actually a white rectangle, and as I'm moving, I'm drawing more and more white rectangles, and then I'm squishing them into one texture, and then I'm using that texture to mask the world. So like I have like a reveal class, or a reveal function. It takes a certain amount of a rectangle of tiles. Then I create a render texture, a blank one. I draw the newly revealed part, and then I render what was already there. I render what was already there, or I add the new part to what was already there, and then I render that. It's kind of confusing, but anyway, I'm revealing the tiles as I go, and like each tile, I track if it's been seen before. So what I do in the camera, or I have a class like isSeen, or a function isSeen. So I can take an area of tiles and check if any of them have been seen before. That's what this does. And then in the camera, what I do is when you reveal new tiles, I check if they've been seen. And if they haven't all been seen, I reveal that portion of the map. So this is the map reveal function. So I'm tracking which tiles you've seen, which ones you haven't. When you reveal new tiles, it checks if any of them have been seen. If any of them haven't been, then I reveal that whole chunk. And what I also do is I track the total amount of tiles that you've seen in the world. And then basically, if the total amount you've seen is equal to the total amount in the whole map, that means I've seen everything. I've seen all the tiles, so that means the whole thing's been revealed. And in which case, I just skip this whole thing. Because if I've seen all the tiles, I don't need to update this anymore. But yeah, so there's some like camera stuff, some tile stuff, some render texture, general stuff, and then the actual map. But yeah, and then I did some color stuff. I also refactored the way the levels work, like the way they're organized. So I have this like level folder. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but these are like the generic pieces of a level. Like right now for camera, it's like what you start at and the different zoom ranges. Then there's checkpoints. Then there's tiles in a level, and then there's a bunch of different types of actors. And then there's different move types. Yeah, like I'm not going to go through the whole thing. It takes too long to explain. But basically now, when I define a level, I can, these are the tiles for the level 1. This is the camera stuff for level 1. These are the checkpoints for level 1. These are the coins for level 1. And these are the enemies for level 1. And it's just more organized now. In the future, I want to have an actual level editor, because it's actually really tough to do levels when you have to write it out in code. But it's going to be quite a while before I can make a level editor, although I will eventually. So for now, I'm doing all the level editing directly in code. And I have some like debug stats, like right here. And that kind of helps me, I can see which tile the player's in. The player's right now in 1629. But, yeah, like... in the future, I want to have an actual level editor. Right now, I just kind of cleaned up the way the levels are organized so that I can write the code easier. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Since last video, it's been 13 days. I only worked an average of 3 hours and 25 minutes per day for a total of 44 hours and 25 minutes. So, although today's not over yet, so I'll work more today. But yeah, I still haven't got my hours up as much as I want, but 325 isn't as bad as it could be. It's still decent. But yeah, I'm getting better and better with my work ethic, and the stuff I'm working on is more and more fun. Like, I'm doing less, foundational, annoying, like, tough stuff, and more kind of fun game development stuff now. But yeah, next... I'm going to fix these development panels, these ones here. Right now they're overlaid on the game and they get covered like by the header. And also, what I want to do is I want to make them global so that I want to be able to see this frames per second panel, this one. I want to be able to see it across the whole site and also a simpler version of it maybe. So yeah, I want to take these panels and make them site like global as opposed to only for the game, and then certain panels will pop up when you're on the game and then they'll disappear when you're not on the game. But yeah, that's just for development. It's not really going to be like that on the actual production site, like the one that the players will play on. But as a developer, it helps to have these panels conveniently accessible across the whole site. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and fix those panels. Maybe I won't do that next. That's kind of boring actually. I'm going to do that later. I'll just do it like over here. Oh yeah, there is one thing I want to show actually that's pretty cool. But anyway, next thing I'll do is I want to have an invincibility hotkey, because right now I have hotkey to toggle the panels, hotkey to toggle... Oh yeah, I should have shown that. I can like change the amount of stuff that's visible on cam for development purposes, and it also affects the actual minimap. So you could see that like when I'm changing the cam, it changes like what's possible to reveal on the map. But yeah, and I also like how the map, because I'm using linear scale mode and I'm drawing it really small and then stretching it, the unrevealed area is kind of blurry, but that's like that on purpose. If I wanted to make it crisp, I could easily do that just like this. See if I could figure it out. You would just go like probably just like this. Wait, let me think for a second. This should already be working. Let me think. Yeah, I guess I would just go like this. See now, when I reveal tiles, it's all crisp, because now I have nearest scale mode. Whereas when you use linear scale mode, which in my render texture wrapper, I just do that by default. When I use the linear scale mode, it kind of gets blurry because I'm stretching it. But yeah, I think that's a pretty cool effect. Yeah, now I'm okay. So anyway, I think I forgot to show this earlier. I can't remember when I did this. I think I did it a couple weeks ago. But in any case, I want to show it. Yeah, I did some more stick animation. So yeah, one of the things I'm doing next is, instead of in the original World's Hardest game, when you hit an enemy, you instantly die. In the new game, you're gonna have a health bar, and when you hit an enemy, it's like pinball. You get bounced back. So you'll like hit it and then get bounced back, and then you can like bounce around. But what I want is when you hit an enemy, the enemy punches, and then you get punched, and you kind of like stagger backward. So because I have this stick mode, I want to do all the stick animations, you know, by hand, and then later I'm going to add like real people animations. These are just a test, obviously. This isn't going to be what it looks like. But yeah, the stick animation, you think it's easy, but it's harder than it looks. But yeah, I went ahead and did the punch for each direction. So I'll go ahead and show that. And just as a side note, right now everything stretches like crazy, like when you're in full screen. It's because I haven't decided what resolution to do the images at yet, but eventually I'm going to fix this so that it's all crisp. The same with like real mode too. Like right now the resolution's crap. I'm going to fix that. But anyway, these are the punch animations. Yeah, and as a side note, see, like, this is standing down, this is standing up, this is standing to the right or left, and then this is like down and left or down and right, and then this is up and left and up and right. These are the stand starting points. So the punch, it starts, like when I'm punching down, it starts from this frame, and then it goes like this. Let me show you. But yeah, it's hard, so then it goes like this. But yeah, like, it's hard to, the animation won't look fully right because one of the frames is missing. The standing down frame is missing here, and it's just going right into the punch. But apart from that, it looks the way it should. But I'll just show that real quick. So this is punching down. How do I turn, okay, wait. Why is it looping? I don't want it to loop. I don't know how to turn off looping. Well, whatever, it'll loop. So anyway, this is punching down. This is punching to the side. This is punching down into the side. This is punching up. And this is punching up into the side. It's kind of hard to see, but I'll go through and try to like see, like, I'm trying to do squash and stretch with the head. So the head isn't just a circle the whole time. When you're punching down, it kind of like wobbles like a piece of jello. And I could probably improve it a bit more, but I think it's good enough. But yes, that's the hard part. Is a punch is already kind of hard. It's like an awkward thing to do with your body. But yeah, the main part, like, that's like takes a little bit of like messing around with, is the squash and stretch on the head. So you see it kind of like squashes and then wobbles around. Now when you punch to the side, it kind of like bends backward and then bends forward like a squished like water balloon kind of. So you see how like when he's pulling back his arm, it like bends his head back, and then when he punches forward, it like wobbles forward a bit, and then down into the side is like the same thing. And then up, it looks real weird. I could probably fix it a bit. But yeah, in any case, this one's probably one of the better ones. Up into the side, that's when you're going like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but this is like if you're walking up, it's like if you're going diagonal upward. But yeah, so I have all the different punch animations, And the hard part is the hurt animation, because since it's punching you and you moving backward, what I need is for the player to step back 2 steps while being hurt. So your body like bends backward while walking backward. So it's going to be like the walk animation, where it'll be kind of like a reverse walk animation of 2 steps while your body's like wobbling back and forth. So there's a whole lot going on. Although I can kind of copy the, I can reference like the existing walk animation, but it's not really the exact same. It's like a more of a staggered walk. So yeah, I'm gonna the stick animation. I'll probably clean this up a bit, make it a little bit better, and then later I'll do the hurt animations. But the hurt animation is a tough one because there's a lot going on. But anyway, and it's a longer animation. This is only like 12 frames. Let me just see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Each of the punches are 12, and even 12 might be too long. I might have to remove a couple frames. But yeah, the walk will be more like 25 or something, or maybe less. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna code it first, just in simple mode. Get the hurt getting the hurt stuff working in simple mode, and then I'm gonna go and animate the stick and get it working in stick mode. But yeah, the last thing I'll mention is for real mode. Right now it's just me. In the real thing, that's one of the reasons I'm calling it the world's hottest game, is because it's going to be hot women. But yeah, I don't have the money to afford to hire like actresses and stuff, models yet. So for the first version of the game, they're all going to be like AI generated. So what I'm going to probably end up doing is I'm going to AI generate like a picture, just a still picture of a woman. For example, for the walk down animation, it'll just be a still picture of a woman, like, about to walk. And then I might use this thing here.
What if you could take treasured family photos and magically bring them to life? Now you can, with a little help from cutting-edge AI technology. Apps like MyHeritage's Live Memory can take your old photo and voila, turn it into a video.
You can take a still photograph and then
Grandma and her siblings. Her grandma is the cellist. Watch as the image sharpens and they all start playing the instruments.
That is incredible. What did you think when you saw that photo animate?
It was very...
And if that doesn't work, if it doesn't end up looking good, what I'll instead do is I'll take an actual video of myself walking, and then I'll try to body replace that person with another person, like see if I can find it. And then you can come, like, I don't think I'll be able to find it, but there's an AI tool where you can take a video of somebody and replace the person with somebody else. So yeah, what I'll probably do is what I just explained, and if that doesn't work, I'll do a video of me and replace it with someone else. But down the road, it'll be real people. It won't be AI. Just for now, for the first version, I'm gonna need AI because it's cheap and way easier to do, hopefully. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna do the health bar, little like picture on the sidebar of like a model, like a person's face, and then as you lose health, you get more and more injured. Then this is gonna be the tough task. This is where I don't know if I'll need these. I don't know why that's there, but I don't know. But yeah, you'll probably be able to collect health and stuff. But anyway, this launching the player in the opposite direction of when you get hurt is the tough task. And then yeah, there's some other stuff. One of the things coming up is I want to have depth in the tiles. So instead of being like bird's eye view of these tiles, there's going to be like more depth to it. But yeah, that and the hurt animation or the hurt stuff is going to be a little bit on the tricky side. The depth of the tiles isn't that bad actually, but the hurt stuff is going to be tricky. The hurt animation and all that, the stick animation and the programming and everything else is all a little bit tricky. So yeah, anyway, that's probably coming up soon. Anyway, yeah, I got some cool stuff that I'm going to be doing soon. So yeah, the game's going to get cooler and cooler. I'm pretty happy with the Minimap though. I think it's pretty cool. And the rectangle, which shows what's visible, that matches the color of the player. So like here let me see here. Here the player is like green, so the rectangle's green, and then here the player is like red, so the rectangle's red, and so on and so forth. This one's kind of cool. I like this random theme. Looks cool. I think the random themes are going to be cool. And I was going to originally make the tiles in the background forced to be similar colors like this, but I think it's kind of cooler if the tiles in the background can be totally wacky when you're in random theme. So sometimes you can't even tell what's a tile and what's not, like what's the background and what's not. But I think that's part of the fun of the random themes. It's just so wacky. But anyway, I'll see you in a few weeks or so. It's going to take a little while to get the Hurt stuff working.